What's up, guys, and welcome to the Isn't It Crazy podcast. My name is Rudy Perez, and today I'm going to be talking about how to talk to girls. So if you're a guy that's struggling to hop into somebody's DMs, I think I could help you out. Other than that, I'm going to be talking about UFC 247 results. I nailed all 5 of my predictions, and there's a movie I highly recommend, so stay tuned, and I hope you enjoy the show. All right, so if you're a guy that's struggling to hop into somebody's DMs, there's a certain way that you could go about it. Now, when I do my research on little segments like this, I usually just go on YouTube and type in how to talk to girls and see what other guys have to say about the matter. So a lot of the videos that I found were a bunch of GQ looking guys, chiseled chins and fucking great smiles and perfect hair, telling normal guys like me what their method is, but I can't really take them seriously because 70% of the time, girls are just choosing them because they look like they belong in the cover of Men's Fitness or something like that. So why should you listen to me? Because I'm a normal guy and I'm not picture perfect like those motherfuckers are. And when you're not picture perfect, you have to find creative ways to hop into a girl's DM and separate yourself from everybody else. So I would start by working on myself, getting more interesting, just be more interesting. Have more to bring to the table than any other guy, and that will probably get her attention. You can't rely on the generic shit. You can't hop into a girl's DM and say, hey, beautiful, or just hey. Because there's 50 dudes in her DM saying the same exact shit because we're all basic as fuck and we put little effort into our DMs and we think that's going to work. And if you're not one of those GQ guys, it's not going to work. You're probably never going to get read. And if she does read it, she's going to leave you on read. So you have to get creative with the way you hop into a girl's DM. Growing up, one of my go-to moves wasn't, hey, beautiful, or any of that hey shit. I don't know where we got so lazy that we thought that was going to work. But one of my methods was to go into a girl's DM and say, what was your favorite food? Because girls, for some reason, think it's cute to eat, or they just like talking about food. And I would get a reply most of the time saying like what their favorite food was. For example, okay, so I saw this girl I liked when I was single and I sent her a message saying, what's your favorite food? And she said steak. And then she followed that up with why? Why would you want to know that? That's such a random question out of nowhere. And I was like, I'm just trying to figure out the perfect place to take you out to eat. And she laughed. And eventually we started talking about what my favorite food was. And then I took her out to eat. So you can make it your own. You don't have to do the food thing. I would say do your research on whatever she's sharing. Don't be lazy. The more effort and creativity you put into a DM, the better chances are that she is going to respond and you guys are going to have a conversation. So do your research. Instagram's a good place. People tend to share what they're into on Instagram. For example, find a girl that likes a bunch of dogs, If she's sharing pictures about dog, do your research on the fucking dog. How bad do you want this girl? And then hit her up with, hey, I like the last picture of that pit bull you put. And that opens up a lot more conversation than just saying, hey. So I guess I could say step 1 would be getting her attention by being creative in the DMs. The second step would be retaining that girl's attention once you have it. And that's where having a creative DM plays such a crucial part because you're opening the conversation to more conversation. You could ask her questions about what kind of dog she's into, what kind of anything that she's sharing. People love to talk about themselves, especially girls. They talk a lot. I've been accused of being a woman because I like to talk a lot. We're social beings and we're kind of full of ourselves, especially in this social media world. So people are always going to want to tell you what they're into. You got a better chance of having a conversation when you're asking them questions about themselves, what makes them unique. So asking questions is a great way to retain somebody's attention once you have it. Now, is it always going to work? Is that method of doing your research and hitting somebody up after you ask them what's the best dog you should get or I really like something that you posted? It's not 100% foolproof. Some girls are going to leave you on red. Some girls aren't even going to want to talk to you. You're going to get rejected and you're going to get the word no a lot. So you have to play the numbers. You have to shoot your shot way more than once or way more than 10 times. And that might hurt your ego, but this is where you switch it up. This is where you take those no's and see them as reps, as practice. So say you hit up a girl and you just say, hey, and that doesn't work. She leaves you on red or she doesn't even open it. Next time you're not going to use that DM of hey anymore. So then you get a little more creative and that doesn't work. So you try something else and eventually you'll form this like method where you're more comfortable, you're more confident because you've tried it on girls and you know it works. So for example, when we were in high school, social media had just started like becoming a thing. And eventually we came up with the Facebook method. So there's certain steps to the Facebook method. It was you like the girl's picture. If she liked yours back, you would comment on another picture and you would point out something that was really good about the picture. Maybe her smile, maybe she looked cute, maybe you like the dress she was wearing. If she replied to that comment, you wouldn't reply on the picture anymore. You would take your reply into her DMs. And once it got into the DMs, if she replied to that, you knew you had it in the bag. Something told us that we had a better chance once we were in the DMs and she was replying. And a lot of the times, once we were in the direct messaging, we did get a lot of yes, and we took girls on dates and we hooked up with girls. And eventually that became the Facebook method. And it took a long time. It took a bunch of no's and it took a lot of collaboration between me and my friends. And then eventually girls got smart and figured out what we were doing because girls talk. And especially in a town and in high school, it doesn't take long between girls to start talking, maybe in the locker room or maybe at recess or something. And eventually they started calling us out on it. You know, they were saying like, oh, I saw you try this on this girl and now you're trying it on me. So we had to branch out to other towns, but it was so good that we did it to so many girls and it worked so many times that eventually word got out. So if you shoot your shot, if you work the numbers, eventually you start forming this little method that gives you confidence and it gives you a better chance that it might work. It's not foolproof. I'm not promising these tips are ever going to help you get a girlfriend, but it gives you a better chance at actually doing that. And say you don't agree with me on the numbers thing. Like, why should you talk to 100 girls? So say I shoot my shot twice and both girls say no. Then my percentage is 0, right? So if I shoot my shot 100 times and 30 of those girls say yes, my percentage is 30%, right? So what's better, 0% or 30%? That's 30 girls. That's a lot of fucking girls. So shoot your shot as much as you can. Take the no's and learn from them until you develop a method that you're comfortable with, that gives you confidence and gives you a better shot at actually taking this girl on a date. Just to wrap things up, be yourself. Never act like you're rich or don't be somebody that you're not. You know, be genuine. That comes off better. Be creative when you're hopping into somebody's DM. Make sure once you have their attention, you retain it by asking them questions. And eventually, you're going to form this method that's going to work for you. And I would love to hear any methods that do work. I personally can't use them. I have a girlfriend and she would probably kill me if I tried. So, but then I could make a follow-up video and share more wisdom on what can help you get a girl. So try it out. You know, if it works, let me know. If it doesn't, let me know anyways. Still, at the end of the day, I love to hear if people are using my advice. Okay, so moving on, I want to talk about the UFC 247 results. I hit on all my results and there was controversy on a lot of those fights. Maybe it was because it was in Houston. It wasn't in Vegas. Maybe Vegas has better judges. I don't know what it is, but there was some controversy with the Jon Jones and Dominick Reyes fight. So I did have Dominick Reyes winning that fight 3-2. Like a lot of people did. And that's how I felt right after the fight. So hearing Ariel Helwani, Brendan Schaub, all these other MMA analysts, and even the people on Twitter, on Facebook, they all said the same thing. They all said Dominick Reyes won. The rounds did vary. Some people had 4-1, 3-2 was a lot that I heard. But at the end of the day, Jon Jones won. So growing up, since 6, I think, I started watching the Floyd Mayweather fights. And I knew whoever's going to beat Floyd, whoever's going to destroy that perfect record, either had to win so convincingly that if a judge tried to say that Floyd won, they would carry him out to the ring and beat the shit out of him, or he would knock him out, right? Because if it went to the scorecards, the champ was going to win it every single time. People like Ariel Helwani say like that's not true. In this world, a champion shouldn't be treated better than the challenger just because he's a champion. But you have to remember this is a fight game. And if Ariel Helwani was so right about that you shouldn't treat the champion differently, then why is it that since I was 6, I knew that if a challenger went to the scorecards, it was going to be way harder for him to win that fight because the judges were probably going to give the champion the win. That's common knowledge. Dana White said like you can't leave it in the hands of the judges. You got to beat the champion. You have to do enough to beat the champion. Just because it's not right doesn't make it real. Just because Ariel Helwani thinks that people should be virtuous and honest doesn't mean that people are going to do that. I don't know what fairy tale world Ariel Helwani wants to live by, but in the real world, champions are seen different. That's why I was listening to Joe Rogan, and there was this coach that said that he would sit next to the judges and yell out when his fighter was doing something great. He would hype up his fighters right next to the judges and try to influence their scoring. It's the reason why I think John won, because these judges came in, they probably don't know shit about MMA. They're using a boxing scorecard. And if you look at the optics of the fight, Dominick Reyes landed way more significant strikes. Dominick Reyes won most of the rounds. He was kicking John's ass, but it didn't matter how hard Dominick hit John. John just kept moving forward, kept putting that pressure, kept hitting him too. And in the world of optics, if you're looking at a fight and one guy's backing up the whole time and one guy's bringing the pressure, you're going to think that guy's doing a lot better than he is. So what helped John a lot was that he was taking these massive shots and kept moving forward. He kept pushing the pace. He kept touching him. He kept hitting him. He never stopped, and he tried takedowns, and he did take him down, but Dominick, to his credit, he had a great takedown defense. I've never seen somebody do that against John, where he would just pop up right away. And that takes a lot of energy. Does it take more energy to shoot and take somebody down? Sure. But it takes a lot of energy to get up yourself too. You're carrying this person's weight as you're coming up. But Dominick Reyes did a perfect job. I think Dominick Reyes fought the perfect fight and then lost it to the judges. But why did he lose it to the judges? Because of optics, because of the way John fights. John pressured Dominick. He kept going even after he ate those big shots, which I guarantee you, it made those judges feel like the shots Dominick was throwing weren't that hard. And they weren't thinking John could take a shot. They were thinking he didn't really hit him. Because if he did, John wouldn't be pushing. He wouldn't be pressuring so much. I don't fault the judges. I mean, I just think it's ignorance. I think they don't know what they're seeing. And if mixed martial art is a combination of all these fighting styles, then they should have a scorecard that is a combination of all the scorecards in those fighting styles. Take the scorecards from wrestling, take the scorecards from taekwondo, karate, jiu-jitsu, and come up with a formula where like everything is incorporated, and then give those scorecards to people that have been in the ring and know what they're looking at. They know what passing somebody's guard means. They know how hard it is to take somebody down. They know a clean shot from just hitting somebody in the face with your toes. They have to clean this mess up, and they can't have these controversies, because then people like Dominick Reyes most likely won't get another shot. They did enough to have a rematch. It wasn't a boring fight. When you have Kamaru Usman versus Tyron Woodley, does Woodley deserve a rematch because he was like the reigning champion for so long? Yes, but it was such a boring fight that Dana White's not going to be jumping off his chair going, I want to see that again. It was so boring that they gave Kobe Covington a shot. You got to remember, the UFC is a promotion, and they're trying to make the best and most interesting fights that you can get. And I think Dominick Reyes deserves a rematch because it was an interesting fight. It was such a close fight, and they did take that away from him. He had the fight 3-2, and at the end of the day, optics changed the judge's mind. And you can't judge these guys because they probably don't know what they're looking at. We don't know anything about these judges, okay? You don't know whether one's an MMA coach or one's just some dude they found on the side of the street, and they're like, "You look kind of smart. Let's put you as a judge. You don't know anything, so we can't judge these guys for making the decisions they made." But if I was a judge and I didn't know what I was looking at, I would just be looking at it as a fight. And those optics suggest that John kept pushing the pressure, kept pushing the pace, and won that fight. And at the end of the day, he is a champion. So if you really want it, then you got to take it. And I know Ariel Helwani does not agree with that sentiment, but we don't live in that virtuous, honest world. We live in the fight game world where these things go sideways all the time, especially in boxing, but that's more corrupt than the UFC. So other than that, we had Valentina Shevchenko beat Caitlin Chukagian, and that was a good fight. I think Valentina should fight Henry Cejudo next. Henry Cejudo said he would fight a girl, and I would put my whole paycheck. I would put Valentina Shevchenko beating the shit out of Henry Cejudo. And I hope she did, because Henry Cejudo has to be top 10 most annoying fighters in the world. It's like small man complex. Can Henry Cejudo beat the shit out of me? For sure. Any day he wants. But that doesn't give him a free pass to be such an obnoxious asshole. And if there was a girl that could beat him, it would be Amanda Nunes and Valentina Shevchenko. And I would put my money on both those girls. But I hope Dominic gets a rematch. Most likely, John's going to go fight Stipe. There's more than just a heavyweight championship fight there. Daniel Cormier has said he wants to fight Stipe, and they were going to fight until Stipe injured his eye or something like that. But if John wanted to take that fight from Daniel Cormier, that would be the perfect time to do it. You know, the only real bad blood I've ever seen John have is with Daniel Cormier, and that one seemed the truest. You know, he did have beef with Chael Sonnen and Rashad Evans, but at the end of the day, the one with Daniel Cormier just hit harder and seemed more true than anything else. So I could see him being petty as fuck and taking that fight from Daniel Cormier. And once he beats him, he could talk shit about saying like, "Oh, Daniel wants to fight the guy I just beat instead of fighting me at heavyweight." So things could get interesting. He could also fight Corey Anderson. If he does move up to heavyweight, I think Corey Anderson should fight Dominick Reyes, and then you have, if I guarantee you Reyes wins that fight, and then you have an undisputed number one for sure challenger right there. John would be against the fence and have to make that fight. You know, when people say the UFC should make just a Dominic rematch, John and Conor are the guys that make their own fights. You know, the UFC doesn't tell Conor or John who they're going to fight next. John and Conor's management hit up the UFC and say, "We want to fight this guy." And then the UFC, knowing that they're going to attract so much customers, say, "No doubt, we're going to make it happen." So if you think the UFC is going to just tell John he's going to rematch this guy, you're fucking wrong. John's going to hit him up if he wants that rematch, if he's confident enough that he saw enough in that fight to fix what he did wrong and come back and whoop the shit out of Dominic. He's going to take that rematch right away. If he thinks that he needs more time to study Dominic, maybe go fight Stipe for the belt, you know, strike while the iron's hot, he's going to go do that. John's the one making the decisions, not the UFC. But I am very happy that my predictions worked out. I picked the fighters. I don't agree with the results, okay? And I was happy I was right. But at the end of the day, I wasn't happy for Dominick Reyes. So I wish him nothing but the best. He definitely earned my respect. I did say he was amateurish. But after the fight, seeing him dominate John like that, nothing but praise. And I'm impressed. I'm definitely going to see his next fight. And the next fight I'll be talking about is UFC 248, Adesanya versus Romero. And there's a lot of interesting things there. So hopefully I could pick right again. And just to wrap up the episode, I know I haven't done this in a while, so I do these like movie recommendations, but I've been so busy with the fights and stuff that I haven't really gotten down to sit down and watch a movie. But last Saturday I watched Ferrari versus Ford, and I love movies that are based on true stuff, you know, because you sit there wondering like, wow, what part of this movie actually did happen? And Ferrari versus Ford is the story about how Ford tried to buy Ferrari, and Ferrari used Ford to get Fiat to buy them for way more money than Ford was offering. And then it became like a beef between Ford and Ferrari, and the 24 Hours of Le Mans, which is a 24-hour race where not only are you saying I have the fastest car, you're also saying you have the most durable car. So it's one of the biggest races in the world. All the big dogs come. Mercedes, Audi, Ford, Ferrari, they all want to win this race. And back then it was even more because you were trying to convince people that you were making the best cars to come off the line. Brand new, durable, a good investment back when cars were more of a luxury than a necessity. Then you learn the story about how Ford recruited Carroll Shelby, who had won the 24 Hours of Le Mans, to make them a car so fast that they would beat Ferrari's perfection. You get to see Matt Damon try to personify Carroll Shelby and see what it might have looked like to see a man that knew a way around the car. After the movie, I did a lot of research on Carroll Shelby. Like, I went balls deep, and he was so good that he got Ford to put his name on the car. But the whole movie is fast paced, and it's really fun, and it makes you want to hop into your car and fucking go down the highway at like 100 miles per hour. Granted, that's super illegal, and I've gotten arrested for that, but it's a fun movie. I love racing movies, and I just wanted to recommend that one. Just to wrap it up, I'm actually running out of time, so if you watch it, let me know how you liked it, and I hope you guys learned a little bit about how to talk to girls, learned a little bit more into how the fighting game works and why Jon Jones won the fight, and hopefully you guys like the movie, and I will see you in the next one. Thank you for tuning in, and don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks.